Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? You know who's with me?
I survived the last video. I'm back.
Yes, Eric is back. He's no longer sneaking into movie theaters, and he's seen all the movies he's wanted to see. So now we're gonna do a video. So if you have watched our Monster Manual series, then you know that this is gonna be a long series of videos. And
An
if you
in-depth
haven't
review.
seen the Monster Manual series, well, you got 17, 18 videos. So,
Time
in
to play
between
catch up.
our player handbook, dude, start watching the videos, making comments, leave a like, subscribe. You with the current OGL situation, which is the video we just did before this, the history of D&D is so important right now because new players, 5e players need to, kind of understand that they're not alone. Um,
The
that
Wizards
Dungeons
didn't come up with this game.
Yeah,
This is
Wizards of
not a
the
Wizards of the Coast game.
no,
They may own the name, but the spirit and the idea of the game is what we're trying to convey through these videos.
yes, and the game has always been yours. The moment you bought your first box set, that's all you've ever needed in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
That's the biggest
You and your
secret that
imagination
everyone
and your
knows.
friends.
It's like that's it. Like, what do I need? I go, basically all you need is just a starter box set, and you're set for life. Because once
Yep.
you see how the mechanics go, you can create your own monsters and make up your own stuff.
Right?
And really, that's what Gary Gygax wanted you to do.
Yep.
So, as you can see here, it's the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook Review Part 1, the game. And we're going to be, Eric's going to be reading it. And so we're going to be doing it in very small sections. That's why we're only doing the first couple of pages. And so this is what's located on the back. No more searching through the stacks of books and magazines to find out what you need to know. The Player's Handbook puts it all in your fingertips. And I've always loved this artwork. You
Oh
know,
yeah, Moloch.
yeah, and apparently lizardmen were worshiping him, or at least guarding his temple
Yep.
at one point, because these guys all killed him.
Yep.
Especially if you
That
looked on the
the
back
evil
page.
clerics and wizard used them as their henchmen.
Yep. All right, so here we go. Introduction. You will find that
Oh, Jeff
Advanced
Easley.
Dungeons and Dragons is a complete game system in itself. So take us away, Eric. Here we go.
All
Introduction.
right, here we go with the introduction to the AD&D Player's Handbook by Gary Gygax. Even if you are not familiar with fantasy role-playing games in general, and Dungeons and Dragons in particular, you'll find this work with its companion volumes, Monster Manual and Dungeon Master's Guide, is a complete system in itself. It will stand alone, and it has been written and edited in order to make the whole as easily understood as possible without taking anything away from its complexity and completeness. If, on the other hand, you are a veteran adventurer of many swords and sorcery campaign games, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons will prove to be a superior. Let's start that again. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons will prove to be a superior to any past offerings in the fantasy role-playing game field. You will find it easy to integrate your existing character or characters into the new system, and at the same time, the game will be both familiar and different. There are nuances not found in previous efforts. All the necessary information is presented in clear and concise terms in a format which logically follows the flow of play. I will say that besides my little stumble there, this is written much better than the Monster
Yeah,
Manual.
they found a better
That's one thing I
editor.
was dreading when I saw this reading. I'm like, ooh, I hope it's better than the Monster Manual. The characters and races from which the players select are carefully thought out and balanced to give each a distinct and different approach to the challenges posed by the game. Advantages and disadvantages, advancement and level, characteristics, and abilities are all detailed and explained so that the selection of a player character type or the integration of an existing character can be done with the foreknowledge and projection. In a similar vein, the individuals running the campaign games, the dungeon masters, will have available more data and guidelines upon which to build more interesting and detailed milieu. Fancy fucking words.
Dude, I know. I was like, what the hell does
Yeah,
milieu
sorry.
even mean?
Sorry, I'm not French. If I said that wrong.
Yeah. Like, what?
Clerics and fighters have been strengthened in relation to magic users, although not overly so. Clerics have more and improved spell capability. Fighters are more effective in combat and have other new advantages as well. Still, magic users are powerful indeed, and they have many new spells. None of these overshadow thieves. All recommended subclasses, druids, paladins, rangers, illusionists, and assassins, as well as a special monk class of character, are included in order to assure as much variety of approach as possible. Non human races, dwarven, elven, gnome, half elven, half orcish, first appearance, and halfling are likewise included. Each offers some advantages and difference, yet has distinct disadvantages, just as human characters do. But some readers might still be wondering what fantasy role playing games are all about. So, enough about contents and on to explanations.
Yep. So we're gonna pause here real quick before we go to the next part, which is Advanced Dungeons and
Hmm.
Dragons of the World. Um, a lot of old school players, as they saw the progression of the game, and really started with like third, and they started looking at all the player characters and how powerful they were becoming and more streamlined. And now you got like fifth edition where everybody levels up at the same pace. Everybody has all these cool abilities where,
Hmm.
as you're going to be learning about in first edition, people gain different abilities at different levels. Some people gained leveled up quicker. Other classes took a little bit slower, your the magic
Yeah,
users or the
your
wizards.
more powerful classes kind of advanced a bit slower.
Yeah, and so you had all these nuances. Like there were advantages and disadvantages to every race you were playing. They've taken all that away in 5. They're really gonna take it away
Yeah,
in 6. It's gonna
because
be
everybody's
done.
got to be equal.
Yeah. And so those little nuances is what made the game special. That you're like, well, if I play a dwarf, I'm not gonna have the same movement speed as an elf or a human, but I'll have a
Hmm.
little bit better constitution. I'll have some strength bonus maybe. Um,
And you
I'll,
weren't going to be a wizard.
yeah, I'm not gonna be a wizard.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna
they took away the individuality.
yes, it did. And so it was cool. But now they're like, well, what if I want to play a good looking half orc? And it's like no one says you can't, but you're just gonna start off the game, even if you were to roll an 18. Really want to take that -2 on that?
Right.
Who's to say that you can't gain
I mean, if you
more?
roll an 18 and you end up with a 16, you are good looking or a half orc.
Yeah, you're like the
And
best
that
looking.
kind of changed too, though. Remember when they did Unearth Arcana, they added comeliness
Yeah.
because comeliness wasn't wasn't necessary physical attractiveness,
No.
even though up until that point it was used as that.
Yes. So, these are all little tidbits that you're to see where it came from, where to start, and
A
why.
very different game.
Yeah, why a lot of players are starting to look even before this whole OGL mess happened. People were starting to go back, and they were not happy with 5e, and they're like, "Well, I'm not going to play Pathfinder because if I want to play Pathfinder, I'll just play third edition." And I think what's happening now is people are just being like, "Well, I'm looking at first and second edition, and I don't want to go. I don't want to play Thaco, and I don't want to do this and do that." So, really, what I think is going to happen is like D&D for sixth edition for many players, including myself and
Yes, the
Eric in
name
our
will
group
not
and
be
other
spoken.
groups. It's just going to turn into a nice big vegetable soup, and everybody's going to be cherry picking what rules we want to play, what character things, because we already talked about that with this group. Like we're thinking about just starting over. Like what do we want to do, and
I
all this.
mean, we could still do fifth edition, but
Yeah,
that's another. We're sidetracking again.
yes, we do that too much. Um, but what my point is like there's so much that Dungeons and Dragons has to offer, and
Hmm.
just because Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro being little businesses doesn't mean you can't still enjoy the game. All right, so
Yeah.
speaking of the game, let's talk about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is a world. Enjoy the
Oh, I
game
love that map.
and always bear in mind that it's fantasy. Take us away, Eric.
All right. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is a world. Of course, this world is not complete. It needs organizers and adventurers in order to explore it. It needs you. Fantasy role playing game is an exercise in imagination and personal creativity. The organizer of the campaign, the dungeon master, must use the system to devise an individual and unique world. Into this world of weird monsters, strange peoples, multitudinous states, wow, and fabulous treasures of precious items and powerful magic stride fearless adventurers, you and your fellow players. Inexperienced and of but small power at first, by dint of hard fighting and clever deeds, these adventurers advance in ability to become forces to be reckoned with. High priests or priestesses, lords, wizards, and archmagi, master thieves. That's weird. Okay, maybe they
Yeah, you
a
would think
little
they
bit of the
put
monster.
"and Master Thief."
Yeah, that threw me off. I was waiting for the end. I was like, oh,
But they
Monster
put it
Manual snuck in.
before. They put and then they went. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
wizards and archmagi.
Yep.
And that's with these. Okay. The abilities of each adventurer are fixed, but even such characteristics as strength, intelligence, and wisdom are mutable in a fantasy world. By means of group cooperation and individual achievement, an adventurer can become ever more powerful. Even death loses much of its sting, for often the character can be resurrected or reincarnated. And should that fail, there is always the option to begin again with a new character, my favorite. Thus, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is, as are most role playing games, open ended. There is no winner, no final objective, and the campaign grows and changes as it matures. This new system provides the dungeon master with more and better material from which to devise the campaign milieu. There's that fancy word again. And in turn, that means more interesting and imaginative game for the players. A word of advice is in order here regarding this new system. Considerable enjoyment and excitement in early play stems from not knowing exactly what is going on, being uncertain of how a given situation will turn out, not knowing every magic item available, and so forth. Adds spice to the game. Later, this knowledge stimulates actual experience, for the seasoned campaigner will have already learned through gameplay. Under the circumstances, it is strongly urged that players do not purchase or read the Dungeon Master's Guide. Stay away. Leave discovery of information therein to actual adventuring, and you will find that the game is even more fun. Some of the details in the campaign milieu, worldly knowledge common to a typical adventurer, will be given to you by your Dungeon Master. Exploration, travel, and adventure in the world will eventually reveal the secrets heretofore hidden, and the joy of actually earning them will be well worth the wait. Enjoy the game, and always bear in mind that it is fantasy. Magical worlds have a strange way of differing, but while yours may not be quite the same as the one described here, it is ripe for adventure and plunder. Cleverness and imagination, along with a bit of luck, will always prevail. Won't they?
I like that. Um. So I think if you're trying to like run like 5e right now, this last part right here, Dungeons and Dragons is the world. There's so many good tips that they just described about how to improve your game, right? It's not about
Yeah.
having the players go to a magic item shop. That's still one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate that.
Mm,
I do. I mean, um,
really? I
yeah,
mean, I can see like a shop, like a curios shop, where they would have magic items there. But having it be like a Sears catalog of magic items, you're like, eh.
yeah, Yeah, I mean, it used to be you had to go out and find treasure. Yeah, you could still go into places and you had herbalists who would sell you like potions of healing. Like I've never had a problem with a shop having potions of healing and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But
maybe even wizard scroll or spell scrolls, stuff like that.
yeah,
But
little
you
minor
know,
first level spells, that type of thing
having
to
like
help
that
out.
+5 Holy Avenger on the wall.
Yeah, your blacksmith might occasionally have a +1 or even a +2 sword, depending on where you're at.
Hmm.
Or three, depending on how level high your campaign is, and what do you have access to. But just to be
Right?
going around and just having a shopping list of magic items, but they
Yeah.
did.
I'd like to buy that Chiron in the backyard, please.
And how much is for the custom mount?
Right? I'm only 10th level. Can I buy that Chiron, please?
Yes, it
Oh,
with the
that's
matching
like beating a
saddle.
dead horse. Oh my god.
So yeah, you gotta watch that, people. You gotta watch that
Right?
video
I
we
derailed
just
that one.
dropped. Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I understand what you mean, making it too easy. That's a remember, did you ever play that computer game for the Commodore 64 called Bard's Tale?
no, I didn't.
There was a game called Bard's Tale, and when you would go into like a shop, it was like a 2D scroll, you know, going through town. When you put in a shop, you had to put in another floppy disk.
Yeah,
If you put a floppy disk that wasn't the shop disk, you could buy any magic item in the game.
really.
Yeah, it was like a weird glitch, and they had prices, so the writers, the software writers, knew what they were doing. But yeah, like say if you went to go put in, it told you to put in the city disc, and you put in like Street Sports Baseball, you could buy any magic item in the game.
God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so and for those of you who are playing and you go like, well, in our campaign we enjoy it and I don't have a problem with it. That's cool, because it's your
Yeah,
game. I'm
no
not
shame there,
trying to. I'm
monkey.
not gonna DM shame you. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what my personal pet peeves, and what I don't
Pedro
like,
Joaquin will shame you.
and make it
Oh
a
shit!
apology video. I can't do 30 years because I'm
Right,
already
you do it.
50.
You need to make
You
an
won't do an
apology
apology
video.
video 5 years later.
Oh my god.
So, um, it's just I just feel like these first 2 pages is so much good information for people, especially new DMs who are like, well, how do I play and what do I do? And, all this is all laid out for you. And they're like, to me, they're like the most important, the best tip I've ever given to a new DM. I was like, just have fun and make mistakes.
Yeah, you learn from your mistakes,
Yeah. You know? So you give away too much information,
right?
so
You
you
give
act,
them too much gold. You do what I did. You have bandits steal it.
well, or sometimes you
You
just
haven't. Yep. Go
kill the
ahead.
party, with a bunch
Right?
of kobolds.
You have him drag to a blue dragon, and he takes half their treasure. What are you gonna do? It's drag fucking dragons.
I forgot about that story.
Yeah, fucking dragon. Man, Lance was so mad. He was like, "I ain't giving him my jewelry. I'm gonna use my prison wallet." I'm like, "Oh, that blue dragon's gonna get you."
Yeah, if he finds out,
Right?
like, you better go down to the
All
river and
right.
wash those gems, because I ain't doing it.
Send those kobolds down there. They're gonna be all mad. Like,
So,
this is the fourth time this week.
you would think these humans would learn. We check
When are
everywhere.
they gonna get a pouch?
They're like, they have the tiny little man catcher. They're like, is that to capture people? No. We gotta use it for
No.
other things now.
Right?
I can't believe we went there. Oh my
Oh
god.
God. All right. Once again, we digress.
Yeah, once again, there's a reason why when I click the box, is this meant for children? It's like, no. Can I put double no? So,
NSFW.
yeah, so this is your world. Do with it what you want. Create um create this fantasy world and just have fun, people.
Yeah.
All right, so
What it's
what
all about.
is the game?
The game.
So this game lets all your fantasies come true. This is a world where monsters, dragons, good and evil priests, fierce demons, and even the gods themselves may enter your character's life. Enjoy, for this is what the game's dreams are made of. All right, Eric. So,
All right,
people,
I'm ready for the marathon.
you might want to pause the video for 1 second and get yourself a drink because Eric's going to be reading a page and a half.
Yeah, I'm gonna be stumbling through this.
Yep.
All right, the game. Swords and sorcery best describes what this game is all about. So those are the two key fantasy ingredients. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy game of role playing which relies upon the imagination of the participants, or it is certainly make believe. It is so interesting, so challenging, so mind unleashing that it comes near reality. Uh oh. I hear a little Maze of the Monsters in that.
Ooh.
As,
Out Tom
yeah,
Hanks.
right? There's another video on that.
Yeah. Go check out
As
our
a
playlist.
oh, I forgot about this. As a role player, you become Falstaff the Fighter. Remember him?
No.
Oh, you know how strong, intelligent, wise, healthy, dexterous, and relatively speaking, how commanding a personality you have. Details as to your appearance, your body proportions, and your history can be produced by you or the dungeon master, who act out the game as this character, staying within your God-given abilities, in quotations, as molded by your philosophical and moral ethics, called alignment.
Yep.
You interact with your fellow role players, not as Jim and Bob and Mary, who work at the office together, but as Falstaff the Fighter, Angor the Cleric, and Philmar the Mistress of Magic. The Dungeon Master will act as the parts of everyone else, also in quotations, and will present to you a variety of new characters to talk with, drink with, gamble with, adventure with, and often fight with. Each of you will become an artful thespian as time goes by, and you will acquire gold, magic items, and great renown as you become Falstaff the Invincible. This game lets all of your fantasies come true. This is a world where monsters, dragons, good and evil high priest, fierce demons, I'm getting deja vu here, and even the gods themselves may enter your character's life. Enjoy, for this game is what dreams are made of. The game is ideally for 3 or more adult players. One player must serve as the dungeon master, the shaper of the fantasy milieu, the world in which all action will take place.
Hey, hold on.
The
Did you
other
say milieu again?
Yeah, that's the 4th time they use that fancy ass word.
You know, now, you know what's sad? Besides you having to go back and start to read this again. I now gotta look up this word.
Milieu.
Like, what does that even mean? It sounds like it's some kind of Japanese animation
It's
cat.
like a bouillabaisse kind of,
Yeah,
like a jumble of things.
All right. Sorry about that, but that was just too
No
much,
worries.
dude.
I'm going to read it for you again.
Oh, thank you.
The game is ideally for 3 or more adult players. One player must serve as the dungeon master, the shaper of the fantasy milieu, the world in which all the action will take place. The other participants will become adventurers by creating characters to explore the fantastic world and face all of its challenges, monsters, magic, and unnamed menaces. As is typical for most of us in real life, each character begins at the bottom of his or her chosen class or profession. By successfully meeting the challenges posed, they gain experience and move upwards in power, just as actual playing experience really increases playing skill. Imagination, intelligence, problem-solving ability, and memory are all continually exercised by participants in the game. Although the masculine form of appellation is typically used when listing the level titles of the various types of characters, these names can easily be changed to the feminine if desired. This is fantasy. What's in a name? In all but a few cases, sex makes no difference to ability. As with most other role-playing games, this is not just a single experience contest. In an ongoing campaign, with each playing session related to the next by results and participant characters who go from episode to episode. As players build the experience level of their characters and go forth seeking ever greater challenges, they must face stronger monsters and more difficult problems of other sorts. And here, the Dungeon Master must likewise increase his or her ability and inventiveness. While initial adventuring usually takes place in an underworld dungeon setting, Play gradually expands to encompass other such dungeons, towns, and city activities, wilderness explorations, and journeys into other dimensions, planes, times, worlds, and so forth. Players will add characters to their initial adventure as the milieu expands so that each might actually. Dude, I'm sorry, but this is a drinking game.
This is.
Players that will add characters to their initial adventure as the milieu expands so that each might actually have several characters, each involved in some separate and distinct adventure form, physically engaged in the game at the same moment of game time. This allows participation by many players in games which are substantially different from game to game as dungeon, metropolitan, and outdoor settings are rotated from playing to playing. Perhaps a war between players will be going on, with battles actually fought out on a tabletop with miniature figures. Here we go. One night. While on the next, the characters of these two contending players are helping each other to survive somewhere in a wilderness. Each individual campaign has its own distinct properties and flavor. A good DM, I'm shortening it myself.
Yep.
A good dungeon master will most certainly make each game a surpassing challenge for his or her players. Treasure and experience gained must be taken at great risk or by means of utmost cleverness only. If the game is not challenging, and if advancement is too speedy, then it becomes staid and boring. Conversely, a game can be too deadly and become just as boring, or who enjoys endlessly developing new characters to march off into oblivion in a single night of dungeon adventuring.
I do.
Sometimes, however, because of close interaction or whatever other reason, two or more dungeon masters will find that their games are compatible to the extent that participants in these individual campaigns can use the characters created in one adventure in the others. In such cases, dungeon masters have created a very interesting world indeed. Oh, you son of a bitch. For their milieu will offer interesting differences and subtle shifts which will pose highly challenging problems to these players. You need to put a little tag in this. This is now a drinking game. Every time I read the word milieu, take a drink. Because that's like 8 right there. Ultimately, despite the fact that this is a game system created by someone else, the game's viability rests principally with the referee. The dungeon master must design and map out the dungeon, town, city, and world maps. He or she must populate the whole world, create its past history, and even devise some rationale for what transpired and will probably happen. As players, you help immeasurably by participating, by letting the referee know that you appreciate his or her efforts, and by playing well and in a sportsmanly fashion. Good play inspires better creations to challenge that play.
Hold on.
Yep.
I know. I'm gonna give you a break for a second. So, milieu, a person's social environment. He grew up in a military milieu. So, I'm like, is this
totally
this
wrong.
person's new word of the day, of the
Gary
week?
Gygax must love it.
Dude, because I was like, is this
Just
a
learned that word.
person that is this the word he forgot to spell correctly in the 4th grade spelling
Did
bee?
it come back to haunt him?
Yeah, it came back to haunt him, and he was like, "I will put
He
it in
missed
here."
this word in the spelling bee, and now he's pissed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, "What the hell, dude?" All
Yeah,
right.
I saw that again. I was like, son of a bitch. I'm betting. If I were a betting man, I'm going to run into it within the next 5 paragraphs.
Well, we're gonna find out. All right, take it. All right, go
All
back.
right. We're good. Skilled players always make a point of knowing what they are doing, i.e., they have an objective. That's not like us last night.
Jesus.
I swear, I thought he was going to kill us all, man.
Okay, so real quick, our group, Eric and I'm the DM. We're currently playing Curse of Strahd, and they get to the point to where they finally figure out that the women in the old mill, which is called the Bone Grinder, are hags. And so Thurman is playing a paladin, a fallen paladin. What is it, fallen or corrupted or something like that? So he uses his ability to detect good and evil. And so I'm like, well, I guess I gotta tell him because they're right in front of him. It's not like there's a whole bunch of people and that type of thing. I'm
Right?
like, they're evil. And he's like, well, are they fiends or anything? Like, and so in first edition, you're gonna find out here they didn't specify. They just told you if a person was good or evil. You know,
Yeah.
so nope, not here. Said you can detect fiends. So
Yep.
I had to make a quick ruling, and I go, this will just count for the rest of this. I go, you'll be able to determine that it is a fiend. And I think Eric had looked up the rule, and he's like, well, it doesn't really specify, so I guess it's like DM's call.
Hmm.
But for me, it was more of then why put it in the notations,
No, what it was it would know if it was a fiend, but you wouldn't know if it was a infernal or abyssal.
Yeah. So
Which is really just micromanaging.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a fiend, so
it's a
yeah, fuck
fiend,
off.
and so I just told him, I go, you sense it's a night hag, and I go to the rest of you guys, you don't know what's going on yet because he hasn't said nothing. And so Thurman
Yeah.
goes, I draw my sword. And I was like, you're going to fight night hags, two night hags at
Right?
level
Yeah, I
3
thought they were green hags. I was like, we can handle them. And then you said night hag. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
at level 3.
Yeah, no.
And I was just like, oh my God, you guys, all right.
All right, there we go. Not
Yeah,
my fault.
they're going to start killing people left and right.
Yep.
So,
All right.
okay. So,
Back to the skilled players. I'm gonna restart that one.
yep.
All right. Skilled players always make a point of knowing what they are doing, i.e., they have an objective. They cooperate, particularly at low levels or at higher ones when they must face some particularly stiff challenge in order to gain their ends. Superior players will not fight everything they meet. They realize that wit is as good as a weapon as a sword or the spell. When weakened by wounds or nearly out of spells and vital equipment, a clever party will seek to leave the dungeon in order to rearm themselves. He who runs away lives to fight another day. When faced with a difficult situation, skilled players will not attempt endless variations on the same theme. Repeating the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome is a definition of insanity. That was not in the book, I just said that. When they find the method of problem solving fails to work, they begin to devise other possible solutions. Finally, good players will refrain from pointless argument and needless harassment of the dungeon master.
I want to
What was that?
finish reading the whole paragraph before
Okay,
I added to that.
I'll get that sentence for you again. Finally, good players will refrain from pointless argument and needless harassment of the dungeon master when such bog the play of the game down into useless talking. Mistakes are possible, but they are better righted through reason and logic, usually at the finish of the play for the day.
So I've run into so many players that just want to argue like just rules with me after I make a
Yeah.
ruling. Even if I've gotten it wrong and I kind of realize at that point I've gotten it wrong, but then I'm like, um,
Stand your ground, at least for that session.
yeah, and I was just like, okay, but
If it's not going to
this just
affect
took
anything
like 10 or
major,
15 minutes, It's like, dude,
yeah.
come on now. It's just let's
Yeah, if
just
it's not going to affect the character of the party in a major fashion, just
yeah.
fucking move on. Change it the next time.
Nope.
People just, it's an inherent need to be right. Oh, I'm the right and the dungeon master's wrong. And it gives them a reason to do it the next time. And the time after that, it's just, no.
Yep.
You know what? Yeah, I don't usually run into that, but if, I'm like, whatever.
No, this group that we
It's
have
more
that
of a
we're playing
guideline
with,
anyway.
it's actually we haven't really had those type of discussions.
All right,
All right.
back on. This game is unlike chess in that the rules are not cut and dry. Bingo. In many places, they are guidelines and suggested methods only. This is part of the attraction of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and is integral to the game. Rules not understood should have appropriate questions directed to the publisher. To the publisher.
Oh.
Disputes with the dungeon masters are another matter entirely, and this is in all capital letters. The referee is the final arbiter of all affairs of his or her campaign.
Dang.
Participants in a campaign have no recourse to the publisher, but they do have ultimate recourse.
Hello. Hello. It sounds like I am having technical difficulties. Eric, give me a second.
All right, let me know when.
All right, so we had a little glitch there. My Discord actually just went loopy for a moment. So Eric's gonna start back with the referee is the final arbitrator, or that's not arbitrator, but take us away.
Okay, let's see. I lost vision of the stream. That's why I was concerned.
Yeah.
All right. Participants in a campaign have no recourse to the publisher, but they do have ultimate recourse, since the most effective protest is withdrawal from the offending campaign, which means if you don't like it, don't play.
Hmm?
Each campaign is a specially tailored affair. While it is drawn by the referee upon the outlines of the three books which comprise Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the players add their color and details so the campaign must ultimately please all participants. It is their unique world. You, the reader, as a member of the campaign community, do not belong if the game seems wrong in any major aspect. Withdraw and begin your own campaign by creating a milieu. There it is. I did not get disappointed, which suits you and the group which you must form to enjoy the creation. Oh, and another one. They're going back to back. And perhaps you'll find that preparation of your own milieu creates a bit more sympathy for the efforts of the offending referee. So basically, they're saying if you don't like it, you can fuck off and start your own campaign. And then while you're running that campaign and somebody's a pain in the ass in your campaign, maybe you'll feel sorry for your old DM.
Yep.
That's in a nutshell. I got back to back milieus, man.
Dang.
One of the most important items you must have to play the game is a character record. This can be specially printed sheet done by TSR and available in pads, or you can simply use a notepad and design your own record sheet for your character if your dungeon master is agreeable, for he or she will usually retain at least a copy of all such records. As information is developed for your character, his or her abilities, race, class, alignment, it must be accurately recorded. All details of the capabilities and possessions of the character must be noted. Do you have that silver mirror that you said you're going to use? I don't see it on your character sheet. Where equipment and weapons are carried must be listed. Spells known and spells memorized for an adventure must be kept track of. A running total of experience points must be maintained. All of these subjects are discussed herein. Ask your DM, the first time they abbreviated that. Ask your DM how records of your character should be kept, read the rules and commentary, and record the data you develop according to the rules and your campaign's referee's instructions in a form suitable to your DM. All in all, this is a game for enjoyment. We are certain that it will provide endless hours of entertainment and excitement. That is the sole purpose for its creation. So enjoy, and may the dice be good to you.
There
Fucking
we
dice.
go, people. So, you know, this is a long read, and so we were breaking it up into smaller chapters, and that was only 2 pages, people.
Yeah.
So the
And
next
it's
thing,
tiny, tiny print.
yeah. So the next thing is, we're at the wrap up. We're gonna be talking about creating a character player. I mean, creating the player character, and
Yeah.
that's gonna cover a few pages because we're just gonna go into the stats, and after that, it's gonna be character races. And then after we hit the character races, then we talk about the character classes. After the classes, there's a little bit of in between, like alignment, multi-classing, languages, hit points, equipment, um, henchmen, hiring, distance, and that'll probably be like 2 videos once we get to that little small gap area. And then after that, we're gonna be doing the spell tables, and
Oof.
we're gonna be the way we're gonna do these videos is gonna be, you know,
Oh.
cleric, uh, first level spells, and that's it. We're just gonna do a video just about the first level spells,
Yeah, as we
and
get to the higher level spells, we could probably throw multiple levels in there because they start to their numbers start to decline.
yeah, because the first level cleric is like 2 pages of spells,
Yeah, that's a lot.
and so that's what we're doing. So I hope
Oh
you people
man.
enjoyed the intro onto this. We're I'm really excited about doing this series here, especially with the Player's Handbook, because for Eric and
Yeah.
I, we have such nostalgia
Dude, I'm
for
looking
this
at the equipment
edition.
list, dude. I remember going through this equipment list like it was a Sears Christmas catalog, man.
Yeah, it when it mattered.
Yeah,
5e, you got all this magic and cantrips and doing all this stuff. Like,
right?
you really don't
Cantrips,
even
which are
need
free.
uh
Yeah.
equipment. You know what I looked for? Real quick as a side note. I looked for the spell for the druids. There's no
Huh?
good berries in first level. I mean
No.
in first edition.
Nope. First or second edition, there was none.
Yeah. So I was like, wow,
Yeah, they
this
made a ton more spells,
yep. I was like, so you really had to get your backpack and keep track of your rations and,
right?
your light source and, that's why he asked, he's like, I don't see a mirror in your list. Um
Right?
the
You had to
DM,
buy that merchant's meal for 1 silver piece.
yeah, I never did have a second copy of the characters sheets. What I did do during my games is at the end of each session, I always collected the character sheets. And the
Oh,
reason
I
why
remember that,
and
dude.
yeah, and the reason why I did that because
'Cause
there
you
was
get
always
fucking
somebody who
filthy cheaters, dude.
well, it wasn't even cheaters for me. It was just like somebody forgetting it or get lost, and now we got to
True,
remember
that's true enough,
everything.
yeah.
It was just
Yeah, see,
easier.
you were a lot younger when you played, so yeah, 10-year-old ain't holding on to a piece of paper without
Mm.
losing it. But we were in our teens as we started getting our teens, I was like, "Nah, you leave your shit here." You did not end up with a Kyren at level 4.
Kyron.
Little
And you
bastards.
guys gotta watch that video. It's a pretty funny story about how at the time I was being an
Don't spoil
elitist.
it, don't spoil it.
So you want to
You'll
check?
learn all about Kyren and Titan Love Letter.
Yeah.
Hashtag Titan Love Letter.
So you're gonna want to check out the monster manual, the letter K and what was it? Maybe it was L too, but I'm trying to remember my alphabet.
Right?
But,
JKL.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it might have been K and L. I don't know. It might have been J too, but either way, look for those letters and watch that video. I also did a just did a short called DM tip number 9. Don't shame other players, but I'm gonna change that
Change it to
title.
don't be a dick.
Yeah, basically I'm gonna change it to something else just to promote the that the monster manual video, which was the whole purpose of that.
Right.
So you know,
But yeah, we got the abilities next time, and
but
then we get into the races. I always love those and the artwork, man. Gotta
yep.
find some of the artwork for the stream.
No, I will from this point. Like once we start getting into that, I'm gonna start pasting the
Yeah,
pages.
that artwork was classic, man.
Those 2 pages that we just read of the player's handbook are so important right now
Yeah,
because all these people are, and rightfully so, are losing their mind and questioning whether they want to play D&D, and they just forget that it's your game,
it,
and
it
it's always
and
your game.
I get it. I get not wanting to support this company anymore because I don't in any way, shape, or form.
Mm,
But in the end, you can't let that take away this experience for you. Especially like you say, you and I have been playing this game damn near 40 years. You
Yeah,
know, so yeah, it is yours. You make it. You create. You and your friends are the ones that create the adventures you have. Whether it's a pre-written module, whether it's homebrew or whatever. You guys are the ones that created it. It belongs to you. You can't take royalties off that shit.
nope. And that seems like a good place for us to stop. Yeah,
Make that a hashtag.
yeah, that it is. I mean, not much more I could add to that. So with that, people, we're gonna end this video. We're glad you're coming along on this ride. For those who are jumping in from the Monster Manual, um, we've set up the Monster Manual videos like we're doing here with the Player's Handbook. We're going section by section. So, if you look at the title and you're like, I don't really care about learning about this, or I don't really care about the intro, you can always jump into when we get to the races, or you just want to, hear about first level spells or whatever. That's all gonna
Mhm.
be there. Eric's gonna be reading it. I'm gonna be commentating as usual, and we'll try to think of funny stories in between. So with that,
I'm
people,
sure we got plenty.
catch you later.
See you guys.